Fellow Kenyans, welcome back. Hope you're enjoying your festive season. Today, there's this story that has always caught my attention. We grew up knowing about it, never to understand about it. It's just a mystery story. Very few people knows about it. The truth has never been let to Kenyans to know. But today, I want to go deep into Goldenberg scandal. I want us to reason together and understand what really transpired during the Goldenberg scandal. I remember nobody was ever imprisoned because of this scandal. But just an overview, Kenyan government lost approximately, that's the figure the national government was giving, and the committee report giving, that Kenyan lost between $600 million to $1.5 billion. That was in 1991, between 1991 to 1993. 3 years. Kenyan government lost between $600 million to $1.5 billion. Fellow Kenyans, in 1991, for Kenyan to lose that amount of money, that must have shaken our economy. If you turn that money into Kenya shillings, we had approximately lost close to 50 billion Kenya shillings in 1991. Can you imagine Kenya losing 50 billion in 1991? A time when the bread was just 1 shillings. A time when you had 10 shillings and 100 shillings, you were extremely, your expenditure was well. That was the time Kenya lost 50 billion Kenya shillings. And what the government tells you could have been even more than 50 billion Kenya shillings. Today, I want to look at the impact, the process of the Goldenberg, what is it all about, so that we understand what Goldenberg scandal was all about. Stay tuned. Listen carefully. I'll be very brief not to go into details about Nini. You can go into details, but I'll just give you the overview of the Goldenberg scandal. Now, what is this Goldenberg scandal? Goldenberg scandal is a political scandal where the Kenyan government was found to have subsidized export of gold far beyond arrangement during and the standard in 1990s. What means that the government was giving subsidies for people and the companies which were exporting gold. We will come into details. So whenever you are exporting gold, you are given subsidies. That is government promoting gold and diamond export. So this thing involved gold and diamond. So when you talk about the scandal, you are talking about gold. And this is a gold fraud. It is documented that this is the largest gold fraud Kenya has ever witnessed. The largest. Who are these people involved in Goldenberg scandal? There are 2 companies who were involved in Goldenberg scandal. One was the Goldenberg International Limited, which was specifically dealing with export of gold and diamond. Two was Exchange Bank Limited, was also dealing with export of gold and diamond. So the two companies were involved in Goldenberg scandal. How were they involved? Or before we go into how they were involved, these two companies were owned by two directors. One was the renowned Kamlesh Patni, a businessman, a tycoon, who after all these scandals and he returned some of the assets like the Grand Regency to the government, surrendered some of the his assets to the government, which was far much little comparing to the amount Kenyan government lost. So after all these scandals and Kamlesh Patni decided to move and trade with Zimbabwe. So as we speak today in 2026 January, Kamlesh Patni is in another scandal in Zimbabwe. He went to Zimbabwe and reformed himself. Now he's calling himself Brother Paul. He redeemed himself with Brother Paul. So Brother Paul has recently, though, last year, 2025, in another huge gold scandal in Zimbabwe. He was a pastor, so he called himself Brother Paul, hiding his identity so that the African will not know what he did to Kenyans. Two was James Kanyotu. By that time, James Kanyotu, a director together with Kamlesh Patni in the two companies, Goldenberg International and Exchange Bank Limited. James Kanyotu by that time was the director of intelligence in the police force. So you can look at the interlink between the government and the businessman. There's a representative of the government in that deal who is James Kanyotu, and there is also a businessman by the name Kamlesh Patni. What was the deal about gold and the Goldenberg scandal? The deal with the government was going to give out subsidies when you export gold. So they collected and infiltrated subsidies from the national government. What do I mean by uninfiltrated subsidies? This means that if they were to export 10 kg of gold, they will therefore tell the national government that we have exported 100 kg of gold. So instead of saying 10 kg of gold, they now over quantify the amount of gold they were exporting. Now they were saying we are now exporting 100 kgs or 2,000 kg of gold to Dubai, to Saudi Arabia, to United States. So the extra amount of kg where the government will subsidize, those ones were stolen money. To get this story simple, is that any amount, let's say that you are exporting sugar now, and if you are selling sugar at in Uganda, the government gives you a subsidy of 15 shillings per kg. But you quantify to have taken 10,000 kgs to Uganda. Now government will give you 15,000 times 10,000, that's 150,000 as a subsidy. Now the government giving you but the money. That's how gold was. So that's how gold scandal was. So the subsidies is what these people were working on. And then infiltrating the amount and the kg of gold that they were exporting. But in real sense, they were not exporting this gold. They were just infiltrating the kgs of the gold that were being exported so that they get more. The more kg you give the government, the more subsidies and the money you will receive. And remember in 1991, in that between period, is where the Kenyan government was experiencing severe economic hostility. And this was brought by two things: long period of microeconomic instability. Remember, it was in 1990 where we had a multi-party democracy, multi-party state, and it came out of war, blood, and shed. So that brought instability within Kenya. Second was the foreign reserves. So the two contributed to severe economic hostility within Kenya. So at that time that thing was happening, the scandal was happening, Kenya was not stable. Kenyan was not stable. What happened during the two companies? Why? The two companies were supported by the government. The Goldenberg International Limited and the Exchange Bank Limited were supported by the government. Reason why? They were given monopoly to export gold and diamond. So they enjoyed that monopoly in exportation of gold and diamond. The government gave them subsidy of 35% of the value of these exports. 35% of the value of these exports. You can calculate. This 35% was even more by 15% the rate of the official rate of subsidies. The official rate should have been 20% if the government was indeed willing to subsidize. The official rate at that time was 20%. But they infiltrated the price of the subsidies and now they gave out at 35%. Yeah, how the scandal was. I've already talked about the amount lost. In between 600 million US dollars to 1.5 billion US dollars. How are these subsidies given? Somebody will ask. Subsidies was given in two ways. One, there was a direct subsidy. Now, if gold was a particular amount, maybe 1 million per kg, 35% of that direct money being channeled to your account, the account of the Goldenberg. So direct money, direct cash payment were involved. Second was indirect. These companies were exempted from tax break and tax exemptions. So they were not paying tax. So the two involved. You export gold, no tax, you are given cash. During this period of time, these two companies, during this period of time, these two companies violated a number of trade policies. Three trade policies were abused. One, the Export Compensation Act, which stipulates the subsidies a government should give, a maximum. Two is pre-shipment finance. And three is retention scheme. All this the government never take into law and into consideration. They ended up giving out money and paying all these companies without considering the three international trade policies. Now let's bring to the main attention. What are the impacts to the Kenyans of the Goldenberg scandal since 1992 to date? Impact number one was massive finance losses. Kenyans taxpayers lost a lot of money. Close to 50 billion Kenya shillings in 1991 to 1993. 50 billion. I will come to physical explanation on that. And in relation to the budget, if a Kenyan government lose 50 billion in 1991, what was the effect of that? We will just come to the impacts here. Two, what is stagnant development growth? When you lose 50 billion, what do you want to do? There will be slow development record, poor infrastructures, and reduced investments. Nothing else you will rely from the government. There's nothing the government will provide. Nothing. I will show you the impact when I came to the physical effect of that in one of the impacts and explained in details. 3 was the cut on social spending. The diversion of fund led to reduced spending on essential services. 50 billion diverted to gold scandal means there is no health essential service, there are no proper education facilities within Kenya. 4 is erosion of trust. This Goldenberg shattered public faith in institution. No one was either arrested or imprisoned. So how does the public lost faith in so many institutions, including the judiciary process, the government itself, and any other institution that were mandated to control the anti-corruption, all those institutions lost faith. The public lost faith in them. So there was erosion of trust by the public. You lose a lot of money in Goldenberg, yet no one is arrested, no one takes responsibility. 5 was it ruined lives and careers of individuals. You see, it was the central bank paying. And it's the duty of the central bank to advise the government on monetary values and exchange rates. Central bank officials who questioned the fraud, like David Munyakei, faced severe repercussions. And others who never questioned were told to remain silent till death. Their careers, some of them, were removed from jobs. And never again were they employed by the government. 6, it brought in the culture of impunity. Goldenberg. Remember, there are two people, politicians, who are heavily involved in Goldenberg. 2 politicians and 2 businessmen. So there were only 4 people who were ringleaders of this. 2 politicians and 2 Goldenberg. Two businessmen. The culture of impunity. Powerful individuals were considered to be above the law. That is the culture of impunity. When somebody is above the law, nothing can be done to them. They were never arrested, never imprisoned. Any other thing took place. 7 was an enduring legacy. You are born, you grow up, you just listen, there's a scandal called Goldenberg. This Goldenberg remains a symbol of grand corruption with no arrest or imprisonment. In 1991 to 1992, the budget presented to Assembly by the late Professor Saitoti, a development record of 24.5 billion Kenya shillings were presented. In 1992-1993, a budget presented before Assembly was 3.5 billion Kenya shillings. US dollars, 3.5 US dollars, which was around approximately 110 billion Kenya shillings. That's the budget presented before Assembly. 30% of that will approximately bring you to 35%, 35 billion Kenya shillings. So in 1991 and in 1992 budget, combined together, development record and expenditure, 24 million plus 35 million, that brings a total of 55 million. Billion. 55 billion. The two given together is almost equivalent to amount lost in Goldenberg. Fellow Kenyans, if you lose 2 consecutive financial year development expenditure to a scandal, that is where we got it wrong. So that will definitely lead Kenyans to, and the Kenyan government, to external and internal borrowing. So that's where the rain started beating us as far as the economy is concerned. Because now we have lost 2 financial years, amount diverted to two for individuals, which is approximately 50 billion Kenya shillings in 1991. Now we have to cover up for those amounts. We have to go for external borrowing, we have to go for internal borrowing. And that's where the economy of Kenya was totally destroyed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Let's meet again in my next YouTube channel, where we will have a plenary to discuss about the economy of Kenya. Thank you, and I wish you a happy day.